What do you do when your gift is a curse? When it chains you tighter to your own fate? Well, this is the story of Uchiha Itachi. Not the cold-blooded prodigy that Konoha whispered about. Not the genocidal maniac in Sasuke's nightmares. No, this is about the boy behind the eyes that saw too much too soon. From the very beginning, Itachi was different. He walked onto the battlefield as a child and left with the weight of every fallen shinobi etched into his mind. That wasn't chakra. That wasn't a Sharingan awakening. A silent understanding that the world was not made for peace, it was constructed from illusion. And Itachi, he saw through it all. But ironically, that clarity didn't save him. It cursed him. It placed a crown of thorns on his head and handed him a sword that could only strike those he loved. Genjutsu, the art of manipulating perception, of distorting reality itself. Itachi didn't just use it, he embodied it. The irony is poetic, really. He was the master of illusion, but his life became the most tragic genjutsu of all. Not cast by chakra or hand seals, but by Konoha, by the elders, by the shinobi system that weaponized duty and painted it as honor. While other Uchiha honed their eyes to fight enemies, Itachi used his to protect his village from itself. And in doing so, he became the monster they needed him to be. The massacre wasn't just an event. It was a ritual. A severing of identity. That night, Itachi didn't just kill his clan, he murdered the possibility of ever being free. He cast the ultimate genjutsu, not on his enemies, but on the world. On his brother. On himself. There's a peculiar kind of suffering that comes with wisdom, especially when that wisdom is forced upon a child. Itachi was just 13 when he was ordered to choose between genocide and civil war. A child handed a kunai and told to carve peace from corpses. Told to choose his village over his family. But what does that even mean to someone who loved both? The choice itself was the illusion. Peace bought with blood. Honor paid with silence. Duty masked as betrayal. Every decision layered in contradictions. Like a dream that keeps shifting the longer you try to grasp it. And that's the heart of the Genjutsu. Itachi was trapped in perception over truth. He became a ghost before he ever died. A fugitive branded by his own people. A traitor to his clan. A villain in his brother's eyes. Every version of Itachi that existed in the world was a lie he let them believe, because the truth was too heavy. And the weight of that lie crushed him. Sasuke, the only anchor Itachi had left. The only reason he chose to live as a phantom. The only soul worth saving, even if it meant becoming the villain in his story. Imagine casting an illusion so strong it shapes someone's entire life. That's what Itachi did to Sasuke. He didn't just trap him in Tsukuyomi. He built an entire worldview around pain, vengeance, and hatred, all to keep him away from the same cursed path. Itachi knew something tragic. Sometimes love is silent. Sometimes protecting someone means letting them hate you. But here's the twist. That choice, noble as it seems, is still an illusion. Still a curse. Because by shaping Sasuke's path through lies, Itachi denied him the truth of choice. He protected his brother, yes. But he also chained him. And that right there is the paradox of Itachi's genjutsu. Even his love was a trap. Let's not romanticize it too much. Yes, Itachi was noble. Yes, he was a martyr. But let's not forget what he did. He slaughtered his parents. He stood over their bodies. He wiped out children. He tore apart a community. Even if it was ordered, even if it was for peace, the blood on his hands wasn't illusion, it was real. And he bore it all without a flicker of emotion. Or so it seemed. But that too was part of the genjutsu. The mask he wore was another illusion, one that dehumanized him even in the eyes of viewers. For years, fans of the show debated whether Itachi was good or evil, genius or madman. But maybe the real answer is neither. Maybe he was just a child who accepted the role of executioner because the world refused to carry its own sins. Maybe the greatest tragedy isn't what Itachi did, but how willingly he sacrificed everything to do it. Even his identity. Even his soul. So what was this genjutsu, really? It wasn't Tsukuyomi. It wasn't Izanami. It wasn't even a literal technique. It was the illusion of peace bought through violence. The illusion of justice served through silence. The illusion of protection through pain. These weren't cast by hand seals. They were baked into the shinobi system. Itachi didn't fall under someone's spell. He became the spell. And the most haunting part? He knew. He knew he was cursed the moment he accepted the mission. The moment he looked into his father's eyes and saw not fear, but pride. The moment he chose his brother's life over his own future. Itachi Uchiha, the boy who wanted peace, became a symbol of war. And the Genjutsu he lived in? It never ended. Not until his last breath.
許せ、サスケ。
To be unseen is one thing, but to erase yourself so completely that even your reflection no longer recognizes you, that's when you become a ghost. And that's what Itachi became. A ghost behind the mask, behind the blood, behind the legend. Itachi didn't just live in hiding. He lived without self. That's the cost of the Genjutsu. The moment he stepped into that role, he stopped being Itachi Uchiha and became a narrative. A story others told to justify their own roles. But let's pull back the cloak. Let's look at the man behind the illusion. The one with cracked fingernails, quiet footsteps, and a heart that bled every time his brother's name was spoken. The Akatsuki, to most, a rogue gallery of madmen. But for Itachi, it was the perfect hiding place. No one questioned a killer among killers. He moved like a shadow among thunder. He aligned himself with war criminals, thieves, lunatics, and yet no one ever quite understood him. Kisame perhaps got closest. But even he only glimpsed the edge of the truth. To Kisame, Itachi was calm, logical, maybe a bit too soft for a killer. But in those moments between missions, when the room went quiet, when Kisame dozed off, and the moonlight hit just right, Itachi would cough blood into a cloth. He would stare at the sky, not with longing, but with resignation. Because even now, even among the worst, he wasn't living. He was serving the Genjutsu. Each breath was another layer of the illusion. Each mission a reminder, you are not allowed to die yet. Here's something poetic. While his mind was wrapped in illusion, his body began to rebel, a slow, painful rebellion that no jutsu could stop. Itachi was dying. A chronic illness, accelerating, made worse by stress, suppressed emotions, and the fact that he fought like someone who didn't care about living. Because maybe he didn't. But the coughs were the only honest part of his existence. Raw, unfiltered reminders that beneath the stoic facade, the ghost was still flesh. Still fragile. And yet, he pushed forward. Because the Genjutsu demanded it. Because his role wasn't finished. Because Sasuke wasn't ready yet. Itachi's curse wasn't just the life he led, it was the knowledge that even his death had to be planned. Or else it would all fall apart. Let's talk about love, not the kind you shout from rooftops, but the kind you bury under mountains. Itachi loved his brother. But his love wasn't soft. It was the kind forged in fire, sharpened into a blade, and turned against himself. He trained in the shadows. He followed Sasuke's progress like a ghostly mentor. Every step of Sasuke's journey, Itachi was there, watching from a distance, manipulating enemies, pulling invisible strings. Just so his brother could one day be strong enough to kill him. Imagine that, loving someone so much, you become the villain in their eyes so they can grow. So they can hate you. So they can surpass you. And when the time is right, they end your cursed existence and emerge from your ashes. It's twisted. It's brilliant. It's tragic. And it's exactly the kind of Genjutsu no one sees coming because it doesn't distort sight. It distorts meaning. The most powerful Genjutsu techniques, Tsukuyomi, Izanami, they're designed to trap your mind in unending loops of terror or introspection. But Itachi didn't need them cast on him. His memory was enough. He relived the massacre every time he closed his eyes. His mother's voice, his father's final nod, the silence afterward, thicker than blood, heavier than steel. No amount of logic or strategy could erase that. He rationalized it, sure, but you don't walk through fire without collecting burn scars. And Itachi? His soul was nothing but scar tissue stitched together with willpower. You could say Itachi was living in his own Tsukuyomi, a loop of regret, sacrifice, and calculated suffering, except there was no escape. No one to shatter the illusion for him. No one to say, it's okay now. Because no one knew. Because he made sure no one could know. Originally, Itachi was meant to be a tool, an asset, a prodigy. Then he became a weapon pointed at his own people. But after the massacre, he didn't return to being a boy. There was no return. Only motion forward. Only the mission. In that sense, his mission became who he was. It wasn't about peace anymore. It was about maintaining the illusion for himself. For Sasuke, the mission to protect the leaf was a front. The real goal was this. Let Sasuke live in a world where he can choose. That was the irony. While Itachi gave up all choice, he fought to give his brother that very freedom. He destroyed himself to preserve something he was never allowed to have. He wasn't afraid of death. No, he wanted it. But not randomly. Not by illness. Not at the hands of someone unworthy. Only Sasuke. Because if Sasuke could kill him, then the illusion would be complete. The curse would end. The truth would die with Itachi. And Sasuke would be free. That was the plan. That was the point. But life, like Genjutsu, rarely ends cleanly.
Hate me more.
The stage was set. Everything Itachi had built, the lies, the betrayals, the pain, it all led to this moment. The final act of a tragedy he had written with his own blood. And now Sasuke was ready to kill him. Or so he thought. Forgive me, Sasuke. The moment finally came. Itachi staggered forward, coughing blood, eyes dimming. Sasuke, drained, broken, barely holding on. And then it happened. Itachi raised his hand, reached toward Sasuke's face, and whispered with his last breath.
Yuruse, Sasuke.
And then he collapsed. To Sasuke, it was a haunting mystery. To us, the audience, it was the ultimate reveal. The illusion that had shaped Sasuke's entire life was finally breaking. But the real Genjutsu? It didn't shatter when Itachi died. It shattered when the truth came out. The eternal role of villain. Itachi believed that Sasuke had to earn the truth through fire, hatred, and survival. Only then would he be ready to know why everything happened. And only then could the curse be lifted. When Edo Tensei brought Itachi back, something profound happened. For the first time, he was free from the Genjutsu of secrecy. He could speak the truth. To Naruto. To Sasuke. To himself. And in that brief return, we saw a different Itachi. Not the cold killer. Not the puppet master. But the man who could finally say, I was wrong. Not about saving Sasuke, but about trying to do it all alone. About carrying the weight of a world that refused to share the load. In death, Itachi finally understood that truth is not a gift you withhold until someone's ready. It's a bridge. And if you build it too late, the ones you love drown trying to cross. At the end of everything, we're left with one haunting question. Did Itachi ever truly escape the Genjutsu? In a literal sense, yes. The illusions ended. The truth came out. His legacy was revealed. But in a deeper sense, no. Because the Genjutsu wasn't cast by eyes, it was cast by ideals. By a world that demands sacrifice. By a system that punishes empathy and rewards violence.
俺のことをずっと許さなくていい。俺はお前をずっと愛している。